Have you ever noticed that strange modern phenomenon where the more you acquire, the heavier you
Oh,
feel?
absolutely. It's like this universal exhaustion.
Right. You know exactly what I'm talking about. You
Yeah.
finally get that promotion or you
Yeah.
close on a house or, I don't know, hit some massive personal milestone,
Yeah.
and you expect this huge tidal wave of relief, but instead you just feel, well, completely exhausted.
Yeah, it's like you're carrying this invisible backpack around.
Exactly. And every time you achieve something that society tells you to want, it's like another brick gets dropped inside.
Ah.
So today, we are doing a deep dive into the architectural blueprint behind why that actually happens.
And what we're looking at today, it really completely shifts the perspective on why we feel this way. Because we aren't just discussing standard psychological burnout here.
No, not at all.
We are looking at a philosophical framework that suggests human suffering is actually built into this uh, highly structured, almost architectural matrix.
Right, and for today's deep dive, we have some really fascinating source material. We're exploring a deeply challenging philosophical text. It's titled Desire Array, the second of the 36 Bagua arrays, and it's authored by Shufeng of Life Genuine.
Yeah, it's an incredibly dense, profound text.
It really is. And there is a specific visceral image from Life Chanyu Sufeng that I want to plant in your mind right off the bat. Picture this massive 2,000-pound bull.
Okay, yeah.
It's pure muscle, entirely unstoppable. But if you take a small metal ring, pierce it through the most sensitive part of that bull's nose, and attach a lead rope,
What happens?
right, what happens? A toddler could literally lead it around the yard.
Yeah, because you've bypassed all its strength and targeted this hyper-specific vulnerability.
Exactly. The bull becomes completely subservient to wherever that rope is pulled.
Right, it's such a brilliant visualization.
And Swifting argues that desire is that metal ring, and society is constantly yanking on the lead rope. It pulls you around, dictating your movements, your thoughts, your energy, until you are, completely confined to a very small, very exhausted space in life.
It focuses entirely on the mechanism of control. And as we dig into Weffeng's work today, my role is to help contextualize the sheer scale of this philosophy. Because, this isn't just a self-help manual telling you to meditate more.
Right. Definitely not.
Schweffing frames human existence within a massive cosmic mechanism. He describes this Bagua array as a system designed to test us. It's a literal filtering mechanism for human consciousness.
So our mission today is to help you identify how this array operates in the background of your daily life, and ultimately to look at the escape route he maps out.
Exactly.
So before we get into the specific bait that makes up this trap, I want to talk about how the ring actually gets installed in the nose in the first place. Because, it doesn't happen overnight, right?
No, not at all. The text focuses heavily on the seemingly harmless progression from just a daily habit to a life-altering addiction.
Right, it starts with this foundational observation. Habits become nature, and nature obscures true nature.
Yeah, human beings are uniquely wired to let repeated actions solidify into automatic behaviors. The text points out the really obvious physical ones, like the more you eat, the greedier your palate becomes,
Yeah,
or
right.
the more you sleep, the lazier your body becomes. We totally understand substance addictions like smoking or gambling, but Xufeng expands this definition to cover almost all human action.
Yeah, that's where it gets a little uncomfortable.
Hmm.
He points out that making money can become an addiction.
Oh, definitely.
Chasing entertainment, playing games, even the simple act of being a manager or a boss becomes an addiction. You get hooked on the dopamine of the action itself, regardless of the actual outcome.
And here is the truly subtle shift the philosophy makes. It moves away from external actions entirely and targets your internal emotional landscape.
Oh, this part was fascinating.
Right. Suefeng argues that negative emotions are profoundly addictive. Jealousy, constantly comparing yourself to your neighbors,
Yeah.
being hypercritical, lying, arrogance, selfishness. We usually just treat these as passing moods, right? But the text insists they form a vicious, self-sustaining chemical loop in the brain.
I see this all the time, especially in corporate environments. You know that coworker who constantly complains about management?
Oh yeah, we all know one.
At first, they're just, blowing off steam. It's a reaction to a bad day.
Yeah.
But slowly, over months, complaining becomes the only way they know how to bond with people.
Yeah, it becomes their default setting.
Exactly. It becomes the pessimistic lens through which they view every single email, every meeting, every interaction. It's no longer a mood, it's an identity.
That is the exact trap Xufeng is warning about. Once a person solidifies that unhealthy psychology, pessimism becomes the prevailing theme of their existence. The text notes that people in this cycle become withdrawn, stubborn, and completely rigid in their thinking. It's this compounding descent that ultimately strips the joy from life and leads directly into severe depression. You are literally addicted to your own misery.
Okay, I follow the psychology there.
Yeah.
But this is where the text makes a massive, almost dizzying conceptual leap.
It really zooms out.
Yeah. So Feng takes this psychological rut and scales it up to a cosmic level, introducing this concept of the Bagua array. He describes it as a system set up to keep a certain number of lives trapped in a certain dimensional space.
Right.
To a modern listener, that sounds a bit like a cosmic prison system. What exactly does he mean by a Bagua array?
Well, to understand that, we need to quickly touch on the Taoist cosmology that underpins this language. For those unfamiliar, the Bagua translates to 8 symbols, or 8 trigrams.
Okay.
In ancient Chinese philosophy, these 8 symbols represent the fundamental principles of reality, things like heaven, earth, fire, water. They map out how energy and elements interact to form the universe.
So it's like the blueprint of reality.
Exactly. So when Xuefeng calls this a Bagua array, an array is a strategic geometric formation. He is suggesting that these specific desires form a literal, inescapable matrix around human consciousness.
So it's not a prison with iron bars then?
No, it's more like a spiritual gravity well. The universe in this philosophy is made up of different dimensional spaces.
Okay, I'm with you.
If your mind and spirit are saturated with these heavy addictive habits and negative emotions, you are energetically weighed down. You are tethered to the specific human realm of fatigue and suffering.
Wow.
You simply lack the energetic buoyancy to ascend to a higher, freer start of existence. The array is a filter. It ensures that only those who figure out how to untie the emotional knots can actually move beyond it.
That reframes it beautifully. It's not a punishment at all. It's just spiritual physics. You can't float if your pockets are full of rocks. Which naturally brings us to the rocks themselves. If the array uses habit and addiction to weigh us down, we need to examine the actual bait. Xufeng categorizes these into the 8 great desires.
And before we dive into those categories, we really have to establish Xufeng's crucial baseline definition. It is the key to digesting this entire philosophy without feeling completely alienated.
Yeah, tell me about it.
He writes, let me quote it, "Normal needs are not called desire. Whatever is sought that exceeds normal necessity is called desire."
Right. I was so relieved to read that. This isn't some philosophy demanding you starve yourself in a cave and reject all human contact.
Not at all.
The trap isn't eating. The trap is the obsession. It is that razor-thin boundary where a basic healthy requirement for life mutates into a ravenous, uncontrollable want.
Precisely. Let's look at how Xufeng categorizes these. If we cluster them by how they function, the first group revolves around consumption and the physical body: food, pleasure, material wealth, and lust.
Let's break those down, because the line between need and desire here is really fascinating. With food, a normal need is nourishing your body so you have energy.
Right. Very basic.
But the desire trap is obsessing over culinary status. Spending your days hunting down rare delicacies, killing animals, just to satisfy a fleeting craving for a specific taste. Basically treating food as a hobby rather than fuel.
And notice how that exact same mechanism of overconsumption bleeds right into pleasure and material wealth. Resting your body is a fundamental need. But the desire for pleasure is this modern expectation of endless high-end entertainment.
Oh, the inability to just sit quietly in a room.
Yes, you feel like you need to be traveling, gaming, constantly demanding maximum comfort at all times. And similarly, material desire isn't about having a roof over your head.
Right.
It's defined as laboring endlessly, day in and day out, just to acquire more real estate, more luxury goods, more equipment you'll never actually use.
Which perfectly describes the bedrock of the entire modern economy. We are actively trained to be trapped in that specific part of the Bagua array.
We really are.
And then you have lust, or emotional desire. Xufeng describes this as letting your thoughts churn all day long, obsessing over sexual conquests, or constantly scheming to force emotional relationships with people, rather than just letting human connections develop naturally.
Yeah, you start treating people the same way you treat real estate as acquisitions.
Exactly. That consumptive mindset creates an internal void that can never be filled. But the second cluster of desires in the array is arguably much more insidious. These are the traps of ego and identity.
Right. Fame, possession, excellence, and survival.
I am so glad we are separating these because reading this section, my brain completely stalled out. I felt serious friction with the text here.
Oh, really? Tell me about it.
Let me lay out what Schueffing says. Fame is defined as agonizing over what people think of you and desperately trying to maintain a pristine public reputation.
Right, makes sense.
Possession is the brain-racking need to control resources, status, or other people. But the two that really threw me were excellence and survival.
Ah, yeah. They are definitely the most controversial points for a modern reader.
They really are. Racine defines the desire for survival, or life, as taking extreme measures to cheat death, like obsessively taking health supplements or doing intense forced Qigong or meditation just to prolong your life unnaturally.
Yes.
And he defines the desire for excellence as searching for ways to be completely different from others, forcing yourself to stand out, or seeking magical abilities so people will envy you.
So where does the friction come in for you specifically?
Well, we literally hand out awards for excellence.
Mm.
Our entire educational and corporate system is based on striving to be outstanding.
That's true.
And look at the billion-dollar biohacking industry, taking supplements, tracking your sleep, doing cold plunges. We are praised for taking control of our health and striving to be great.
Right.
Why on earth does Wei Fang classify taking vitamins or wanting to be a great singer as part of a tragic, exhausting cosmic trap?
It's a brilliant question, and to answer it, we really have to look past the action itself and examine the engine driving it. Weffing is pointing to the underlying anxiety, the sheer force, and the resulting exhaustion.
Okay, I'm listening.
Let's take the desire for excellence. Suppose you do not naturally have the vocal cords or the innate talent to be a world-class singer, but society tells you that being average is a failure.
Right, you have to be special.
So you force yourself through painful, soul-crushing training, agonizing over every note, just to be perceived by others as an excellent singer.
Oh, I see. You're trying to force a river to flow backward just to get a round of applause.
That's exactly it. You are spending your finite life energy fighting your own nature for external validation. It is exhausting and ultimately thankless. If you have a natural talent, Weffing isn't saying you shouldn't use it.
Right.
He is warning against the force.
That makes a lot of sense. And I assume the same logic applies to the obsession with survival and life.
Completely. Qigong, for instance, is an ancient, beautiful system of coordinated posture and breathing meant to harmonize the body. But if you are doing it obsessively, tracking every breath, swallowing 50 supplements a day in a frantic attempt to outrun aging.
What is the engine driving that?
Exactly. It is a profound, paralyzing terror of death. It is an absolute inability to accept the natural, cyclical order of the universe.
You're living your entire life in a defensive crouch.
Yeah.
You aren't actually living, you're just aggressively avoiding dying.
Yes. And Xue Feng is brutally clear about the result of falling into this 8-part array. He states that once a person is fully trapped by these forced pursuits, their life becomes bitter.
Wow.
They are destined for constant mental and physical exhaustion, chronic dissatisfaction, and pain. You become so obsessed with controlling the outcome that you never get to enjoy true, unburdened freedom. You just remain anchored to the cycle.
It is a devastatingly accurate diagnosis of modern burnout. We are exhausting ourselves trying to control the uncontrollable.
Really are.
So if the entire world is basically a Bagua array designed to stimulate these 8 desires and drain our energy, how do we get the ring out of our nose? The text dedicates its second half to the escape route, and I want to know the logistics.
The ultimate solution Schweffing provides is conceptually simple, though it obviously requires a radical shift in perspective.
Naturally.
He says we must follow the way of the Creator, which he immediately clarifies as following the way of nature, or the Tao.
The Tao, the natural order of things,
Right.
letting things take their course without aggressive interference.
Precisely. And he systematically applies this principle of non-interference to the desires we just outlined.
Let's walk through how that actually looks, because practically speaking, telling someone in 2026 to just live naturally sounds a bit abstract.
Sure.
For the consumptive desires, material wealth, and food, his advice is brilliantly grounding. Eat to be full. Don't demand extravagant, ego-driven feasts.
Yeah, keep your material possessions simple and practical. Have exactly what you need to live comfortably, but stop hoarding excessive luxury items that you then have to spend your life maintaining and protecting.
Right. And when it comes to the identity traps, like fame, Xue Feng offers some of the most poetic and actionable advice in the entire text.
Oh, I love this part.
To escape the anxiety of public opinion, he uses this beautiful imagery. Butterflies come to fragrant flowers naturally.
It's so good.
I love the mechanics of that metaphor. A flower doesn't frantically chase butterflies around the garden. It just roots itself, produces nectar, and the butterflies arrive as a byproduct of the flower just being what it is.
Exactly. You don't have to hire a PR firm for your soul.
But yes.
You shouldn't waste a single ounce of energy worrying about whether people will praise you for 100 generations or criticize you tomorrow. The only metric that holds any actual weight is your own clear conscience.
Right.
If your inner morality is sound, the right people, the butterflies, will find you naturally.
That takes so much pressure off. But I want to push back on the solution for possession and control,
Okay, go for it.
because the text addresses the burning need to control resources, status, and people by telling the reader to embrace the philosophy of having nothing, possessing everything.
Yeah.
I see the spiritual logic there, but practically, how does someone who has a mortgage, a family, and a career actually do that?
It comes down to the concept of non-attachment. Having nothing doesn't mean you throw your house keys in the river and walk into the woods.
Right.
It means you relinquish the psychological illusion of ownership. You recognize that you don't truly own your house, your partner, or your status. You are just experiencing them for a brief window of time.
Oh, that's really profound.
The more you try to squeeze the world into a clenched fist, the more mentally exhausted you become. But if you open your hand, you can hold the entire universe. You interact with the world, you enjoy it, but you stop trying to dominate it.
Which perfectly resolves that fear-based desire for survival we talked about earlier.
Exactly.
If you stop trying to dominate nature, you can leave life and death to the Tao. You live healthily, but as Zhou Feng writes, you neither fear death nor cling to life. You just accept the season you are in.
And the same goes for excellence. If you have a natural talent, let it flow. Enjoy the characteristics you were born with, but stop breaking your own bones trying to be perceived as extraordinary in a field you aren't suited for.
Trust the arrangement of the day.
Trust the arrangement.
There is a massive paradox embedded right at the end of Zhu Feng's conclusion that we have to talk about. Because someone listening might think, okay, if I drop all my desires, if I stop hustling, I'm just going to end up with nothing. I'll be a failure.
Right, that's the natural fear.
But the text says the exact opposite. It says, once you escape the desire array, you will have a boundless reality. Without desire, one can achieve their desire. Without selfishness, one can achieve their selfishness.
Without desire, one can achieve their desire. It is the ultimate philosophical mindbender, and it's the core truth of the Bagua array.
Help me unpack the mechanics of that, because it sounds contradictory, but I know there's a practical truth to it.
Let's use a very modern example. Think about a person at a high-stakes networking event who is absolutely desperate to make connections.
Okay.
They are vibrating with the desire for status. What happens?
Oh, they repel absolutely everyone. You can smell the desperation on them.
Yeah.
People instinctively back away from that kind of frantic taking energy.
Exactly. Their intense desire actively prevents them from achieving their goal. Now, picture someone at that same event who is completely grounded.
Right.
They don't need anything from anyone. They are just genuinely curious, present, and comfortable in their own skin. What happens?
Everyone flocks to them. They become the center of gravity in the room.
Precisely. By dropping the desperate need to force an outcome, they naturally achieve the exact outcome the other person was failing to force. When you let go of the frantic, exhausted need to hoard resources or manufacture an identity, you actually gain ultimate freedom. When you aren't selfishly guarding your reputation, you become genuinely respected. By stepping out of the array, by dropping the rope, you gain the whole field.
That is such a powerful reversal. You achieve the goal by removing the friction of your own ego.
Exactly.
So to synthesize this entire journey for you listening, the line between a healthy, natural need and a toxic, life-draining desire is the exact millisecond that metal ring gets pierced through your nose.
Yep.
It's the moment nourishment becomes gluttony, rest becomes laziness, and living becomes a frantic terror of dying. By recognizing these 8 desires, food, lust, pleasure, material wealth, fame, survival, possession, and excellence, you can actually see the matrix of the Bagua array shimmering around you.
You really can.
You can choose to start forcing the river backward and finally let the current carry you.
But it requires rigorous, daily self-awareness. You have to audit your own motivations constantly. Ask yourself, am I acting from a place of natural alignment? Or am I being pulled by the rope of anxiety?
Such a vital question, and I want to remind everyone that today's profound and challenging exploration was based entirely on the text desire array. the second of the 36 Bagua arrays.
Authored by Zhu Feng of Life Chenya.
Right, authored by Swifting of Life Chenya. It is one of those rare frameworks that fundamentally alters how you view your own daily routines.
It absolutely is. And as we wrap up, I want to leave you with a final, slightly provocative thought to chew on.
Ooh, go for it.
We've established that our modern global economy is essentially fueled by stimulating these exact 8 desires, manufacturing the need for endless material wealth, constant pleasure, and forced excellence.
Right.
So what would actually happen if millions of people woke up tomorrow and collectively decided to step out of the desire array?
Yeah.
Would the entire societal system collapse into chaos? Or would we finally clear away the noise and build a society rooted in actual, true freedom?
Wow. That is a massive question to sit with. Are you pulling the rope, or is the rope pulling you? Think about it next time you feel the weight of that invisible backpack getting heavier. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us. Catch you next time.